Good morning from Leamington, Ontario. I'm checking in. I missed you last week. Wasn't able to get back into town last week. It was my boyfriend's birthday and we had a little party, and I didn't get back last weekend at all. This week there was a lot of snow and a lot of cold here in Ontario. Still pretty cold. And today I'm switching my internet from a company called Cogeco that operates here in Canada to Virgin, which is a subsidiary of Bell. I have Virgin on my cell phone and I'm switching over from Cogeco because it's gotten way too expensive to use that service. So out it goes. It's a cable service, and this is a wired service that I'm getting. Anyhow, I'm happy to be getting that done, but I feel really sorry for the guy who's got to do it because he's got to go to this box out on the street to figure out the wires, because the wiring in my old building has not been updated for as long as the building's been here, which is longer than I've been alive because my mother's family built this building on Short Street. So they built it 60 years ago and it's not been updated since. The people who own it now have no interest or understanding of electrical wiring, much less internet and phone wiring, and they're just like not interested. And every time I have a tech come and they look and they go, I can't figure this out, I have to go to the box, which is way down the street. If you know what those look like, they're probably in your community too, the boxes that house all of the telephone and internet lines. So anyhow, that's what I'm doing this morning instead of being at church. So I would have rather been at church, but oh well, it has to be done, and you just got to bite the bullet sometimes and do what has to be done, isn't it? So anyhow, that's what's happening with me today. But I had a nice evening yesterday. I went out to see a band. We went to a place in Amherstburg, which is maybe about maybe about half an hour away from here. And we like this place. It's a Legion. It's a place where veterans and the families and friends of veterans go. It's a private club. There's pool tables. There's a band that comes and plays. There's a bar. There's one of those machines that I don't see them very often anymore. I can't even think of what they're called. You put some money in and you choose a song. Jukebox! I know if I start talking about it, it would come to me. A jukebox. They got a cool little jukebox in there, so when there's not a band in there and you want to hear a specific song, you can put that jukebox in. There's a nice wooden dance floor, nice food before the band starts and everything. Apparently they have food. I've never had it, but apparently they have a very good kitchen staff and nice little bar there and everything. It's a lovely little place to go, wholesome. People have a couple drinks, but nobody gets wasted and acts like a goofball. So you can have a good time without on their phone, on one of their phones, took a picture of the cut so that they knew that that was the cut that they wanted, so that they wouldn't ever have to go through that again. And eventually, they would learn it. And eventually the learning of English to be able to read more and more and more. But what happens is they cycle through. The workers come for maybe 5 or 6 years in a row. Because what happens with migrant workers is they leave their homes and their families behind. And it's usually mostly men that come. We have a few women, but not too many. A few couples. But it's mostly men. It's thousands of men, thousands of Latino men who are coming into this small town. It's a very, 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 very white little town of mostly English, German, Italian, Portuguese, and Lebanese people. Mostly that's what our community is. But we also have some people here from Syria who have come since the tragedies that have happened in their country. And so it's not like Toronto where you've got people from every walk of life, every country in the world, speaking every language in the world. It's not quite as open as that, but there is still, a good amount of culture. But it's limited compared to what I'm used to in Toronto. But wherever you are, you can find fun and you can find good people to hang around with. What I kind of really miss is my Indian community, my yoga community, my aquafit and yoga students, especially the kids and the seniors. The adults in between, well, they can do just about anything, but the children kind of need more guidance, and the seniors need more help to stay young and to feel young. And getting closer to that myself. Anyhow, I guess I will leave you with just a thought that now more than ever before, it's so important to be kind to one another, because you don't know what's happening in somebody else's life. Everybody's fighting some sort of invisible battle, which might be a health problem, which might be a problem in a relationship, which might be a problem with a family member's health or finances or whatever. Everybody's got some sort of an issue that they are struggling with. Somebody might be retiring and afraid of it. Somebody might be, just not having enough friends and stuff like that. After COVID in Canada, especially in more remote areas like this, a lot of people stopped going out. And, you couldn't go out during COVID, but a lot of people just never really resumed going out and having a social life. And that's important. Whether you're going out to dinner with friends, or you're going out to dance, or you're going to church, synagogue, mosque, what have you, it's so important to have some sort of a social life, a spiritual life, and if you were so inclined to have a religious life as well. It's all important. And of course, it's important to keep your energy level high, especially in the face of all the things that are happening in our world today. All the wars going on, so many. The Israel-Palestine thing gets an awful lot of press, and what's happening in Russia and the Ukraine is on the back burner in the news. You're not even talking about it anymore because it's been going on for over 15 years. Which a lot of people don't know that, but what's been happening in Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. There's so many other places. Like I think the Congo also has something going on there right now. I don't know the details, but I've seen people talking about problems in the Congo now. But I'm so impressed with South Africa. Yay, South Africa, for coming to the aid of the Palestinian people. And Israel, boo Israel, boo, 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 boo Israel for what you're doing to Palestine. Is just nasty. You've recreated another Holocaust. Of all the people to do that. Anyhow, they aren't normal Jews that are doing this. These are Zionists, and they're different. They're of a different breed. And you can Google all about Zionists if you'd like to, and you'll find some really, really ugly facts. But I do feel sorry for Jewish people, because all of this is being done in their name, and I can only imagine what's happening in the larger cities where there's places like in Toronto, the Miles Nadal Jewish Community Center, where I used to teach, one of the many places that I used to teach. I can only imagine what's happening there. They have a downtown location and then a location in Bathurst, and I can only imagine the problems that they're having now. They probably have to lock their door and only allow people in, buzz them once they show ID at the door or something. Because I went through that once. I remember there was an attack on the Miles Nadal Jewish Community Center, and I can't remember what year or what was happening, but I remember that the Jewish community was very afraid, and there were a lot of attacks on the Jewish community in Toronto. And, it shouldn't be about religion. If you have a conflict with a group of people, it should be about what are the issues, let's resolve them. But people aren't like that in general. There are a lot of people who are, but in general they're not. In Toronto, people kind of learned how to get along and all that sort of stuff, but there were obviously still people who were prejudiced there, or they came from somewhere else. I remember when they had the G20 thing in Toronto, I didn't even go downtown because I knew it would be an absolute nightmare. And the cells that were fake cells that were used for the movie Chicago that I was actually in were used as holding cells for people that they took from the downtown core of Toronto, because they didn't have enough jail cells for all the people that they incarcerated unfairly. I mean, they took, I'll never forget, there was this man who had a leg that was a prosthetic leg and a cane, so that he could use the cane on the same side as the prosthetic leg, so there wasn't as much pressure on the stump and the hip and the back going down through that leg. Well, they knocked him on the ground, and then they dragged him. They dragged him, and they dragged his leg off of him. They somehow got it off, like it came off, and he lost his leg and his cane. I don't know if you know anybody who's got prosthetics, but they're not cheap. Even canes aren't cheap. A good cane nowadays is upwards of $50 by the time you pay tax, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, people with disabilities deal with a whole different reality than people who don't have disabilities. I do have disabilities, so I do know. The minute somebody sees a cane or a walker or a wheelchair or whatever, people are treated differently. So if you know anybody with a disability, or if you encounter anybody with a disability, please try to treat them the same as everybody else. The only thing that they need really is to give them space so that they can get by without getting knocked around, especially somebody with ask them to grab yours. And then you can pull them up without hurting their hand or their wrist, and you can use the whole arm as leverage. And that is a very good tip. If you didn't know that already, I think it's a really important thing to know, that a lot of people just don't know because they've just never been in a situation where they've had to pick somebody up who's fallen. And until you do, you just don't know. I've worked with a lot of seniors over the years and have had a lot of people slip on wet decks and things like that. And in a wet situation, it's a different story. In a wet situation, you don't want to be standing up and pulling somebody up from the ground. You want to get right down and actually sit down on the ground and help them to a seated position. And then once you make sure that the area is dry, if you can, and they've got some sort of a device like a walker or a cane or something, get that for them and let them use that to help themselves up. If you happen to be close to one of the pool ladders, you can use that to help them up. I mean, even if they have to crawl a couple feet to get to that, it's safer than having them fall down. So if you go into a pool environment, or you have senior friends or family members who go into a pool environment, make sure that they know some safety protocols. And I guess this leads into a little bit how important it is to have skills to be able to help somebody if they are injured. So most places have first aid classes, and I highly encourage you to take a first aid class. As a yoga instructor, personal trainer, and aqua fitness instructor, you're required every year to take a first aid class. And every time I do it, I learn something new. I like to take one from a group of people that work in EMS, emergency medical services, ambulances. They call it something different everywhere, and this video is going all over the world, so I want everybody to know what I'm talking about. So if you take a course through EMS, you get people who have dealt with incredible things, and like things you couldn't imagine, and you get a much broader amount of knowledge. Like I know what to do if somebody gets something deeply embedded in their skin. Like if somebody gets stabbed, I know what to do until the emergency services and an ambulance arrive. I know what to do in that situation. Never had to do it, but I've been trained to know what to do. And so if I ever encounter that situation, I know what to do. But burns, one time my dad was over at my house, and there was this lighter that looked like a bullet. It was about this big, a gold bullet. And he didn't know it was a lighter, and he started messing around with the thing, and it shot up a blue flame, and that's the way it was designed. And he burned his hand quite badly. So I had to go and buy burn pads, put the burn pads on the next morning. But right away, I knew to cover it and to keep ice on it. I kept ice on it from the moment he did it until when he woke up the next day. I put him in a special chair, kind of like an easy boy, and he was right back like this, sleeping with the ice and blah, 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 everything. And every couple hours I got up to change it so that he didn't have to suffer. And I did Reiki and therapeutic touch on it, and I used essential oils, not directly on that too early, but I used them elsewhere to help him calm down. And if you put essential oils into the body, they'll make their way through the bloodstream, because when you get a burn, lymph comes to the surface, and that's the white blood cells. So it's the blood system that you want it in. So if you put that in the blood system, every once in a while the healing is happening, it will go through the bloodstream to there. Once it starts to heal up enough, you can actually put it on there. Actually, I did put it on. I put it on, but not directly. I put it before the burn pads. I put some lavender oil. I can't remember exactly what I did, but I remember using some lavender oil. I think I mixed it with a burn salve that I had. Because once in a while you burn yourself cooking or whatever, it's good to have some sort of a salve. It doesn't have to be a burn salve, but a salve is something that's really good to have. I can visualize the brand, but Mecca. It's called Mecca. I don't know if you can. From them and pass it on to others, because that's the best way to honor people, is to honor the knowledge that they gave you. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful week. Rani Yoga Devi signing off.